And now we come to the last idea, that of capitalization. We have just articulated the law which determines the market price of the services of each of the productive factors. Perhaps I am an architect, and my services are highly valued, and I make a lot of money as an architect. Frank Lloyd Wright. People pay me for my services. Or think of an apartment or commercial premises, an office complex. The rent is the market price of the services those commercial premises provide. In the case of labor, this price is called a wage, and in the case of the services of capital, it is called rent, or the price of hiring a machine, for instance. We have explained how the market price of the services of each productive factor is determined, but you will have noticed that very frequently in the market we do not merely rent or hire services, though we often do. I rent the services of an Oracle or a Hewlett-Packard computer, and I make a rental payment of a certain amount each month. I rent the services of an apartment for my law office. I hire the services of Pretty Woman. I have to pay for those services, and there is a market price for them. A market price exists for all of the productive factors, for the services of the factors of production. However, very frequently, we buy and sell not merely services, but an entire capital good. I buy the apartment, or I buy a Pegaso truck. I purchase the computer. Fortunately, it has been over a century since the hateful institution of slavery was abolished, but in the past, people could purchase a slave. How is the market price determined when we buy the whole capital good and not the services? It is determined by what is known as the process of capitalization. Let us imagine that in period T1, a capital good provides value V1. In the first year, the good, an apartment, provides services which have a market price, a rent of 12,000 euros, 1,000 euros each month. Well, to arrive at the present value of V1, we discount it by the interest rate. The second year, period T2, the good provides another value. Now we can discount at source by the interest rate 2 years of value. The third year, the good provides yet another value, V3. Now we can discount at source 1, 2, 3 years, and so on, until we discount at source the value in period Tn, however long the good lasts. The sum of all the yearly rents, which are equal to the discounted marginal value products, the present values of output, is called the capital value of a good. There is a mnemonic rule to help you remember this. In the case of a capital good of indefinite duration, for instance, a natural resource factor, which is never used up, the rule is very clear. The present value, the value discounted by the interest rate, is equal to the amount of the yearly rent, R, divided by the interest rate. This is the present value, the value discounted by the interest rate of a rent that will last indefinitely, R divided by the interest rate. For example, if an apartment yields an annual rent of 12,000 euros and the interest rate is 10%, today the apartment will tend to be worth 120,000 euros. And if the interest rate drops to 5%, 0.05, the present value doubles and is equal to 240,000. If the interest rate rises, the present value falls. This rule is not accurate for non-durable capital goods, but for durable capital goods it tends to be. Future returns tend to have a very low present value, because when we discount them by the interest rate, their value drops significantly. And if we are talking about 10, 15 or 20 years in the future, durable capital goods are very similar to goods that last indefinitely, natural resources, and we can use this as a rule of thumb. It can also help us to understand how the price of the securities which represent partial ownership of capital goods is determined. That is, the price of shares on stock markets. If a share yields a dividend of 10 euros a year, and the interest rate is 10%, the share price will tend to equal 10 divided by 0.1, in other words, 100 euros. It is obvious why this is so, for if you invest 100 euros in that share, you will receive 10%. If the share price is less than 100 euros, 50 for instance, The investment in that share is a bargain, because you are buying it for 50, yet it is going to yield 10 euros in a year. Everyone will rush to make that investment. What will happen then? The share price will rise until it is more or less equal to the amount indicated by this formula. What if I pay too much? If the price of the share is 500 euros and it will yield only 10, that is a return of 2%. Investors think, there is no way I'm going to invest there where I can earn 10% on any other investment. The share price falls. So, the market price of a computer itself, rather than the services a computer provides in 1 year, tends to be determined by a process of capitalization, in which the different discounted marginal value products are totaled. These amounts are calculated for each period, and reflect a discount at source by the interest rate. The same applies to the price of an apartment as a whole, rather than the rent it yields, and to the price paid for a Greek slave in the slave market of ancient Rome, rather than the slave's services as a teacher. Incidentally, though slavery has disappeared, we very often calculate what our lives are worth. Imagine I make 100,000 euros a year, and let us say I am wondering how much life insurance I would have to provide for my family if something were to happen to me. Well, I would be making the very same calculation, mutatis mutandis, that I would make to determine how much a slave would cost in the ancient slave market. If something happens to me, I want my family to have enough capital so that, when invested, it will yield 100,000 euros a year. That way, even though they are very sad, and I cannot be with them or watch my children grow up, at least they will have the same income they would have had if I had been there. If the interest rate is 10%, how much capital do I need to insure? What is my life worth in economic terms? 1 million. I need to take out an insurance policy of 1 million euros. Then, if I have a heart attack, because I am fed up and my blood pressure rises, because I have to keep scolding students for talking in class and distracting me, and I expire right here in front of everyone, God forbid, my family, my widow, will receive 1 million euros. She will immediately invest it at 10%, and then at least the source of the income I was providing them as the head of the family will remain intact. So, as you can see, the process of capitalization, even applied to human beings, has enormous practical significance in many situations.